Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. First of two today. Look out for us tonight as we are going to be joining the Basement Show with Mr. Nast, based out in New Jersey. He's got some plans for talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, a little bit more of a rundown in his way of the Super Bowl, as well as some other various topics. He's been a supporter of us. We definitely want to do a drive-by and check out his show. So you could look for me and Idris out there tonight, possibly Zappy as well. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. And you might ask, why am I here today? And I'm going to tell you all about it. I want to talk about how I'm going to drive an argument home as to why I believe Patrick Mahomes, in addition to crushing Tom Brady's records, may be able to win 6 or more. Now, granted, I don't think Mahomes needs to win a 6th Lombardi or a 7th for that matter in order to surpass Brady in terms of the player. I'm going to hit on my ice-cold New York Knickerbockers after being the hottest team in the league. We're falling into a bit of a rough patch. Major League Baseball's on the horizon. I want to give you my way too early tidbits and predictions on some of what I think is going to go down this year. We have a very popular pass rusher that is on the trade block, and I'm going to come up with a theory as to why I believe he may reunite with his brother. I'm also going to hit on my NHL midseason report card. We're going to start it up with football, since football is recently coming to a close. The Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions yet again, as you all already know. I give reasons why Patrick Mahomes can possibly win 6 more. First and foremost, I got to hit you guys with an interesting stat. Since Tyreek Hill went to Miami, the Kansas City Chiefs are 7-0 in playoff games and have won 2 Super Bowls. I think that is a very interesting stat and metric, and not one that I think too many people would expect, but that is the case. And nobody's going to say that they're more talented without Reek. But it's a pretty interesting stat. I think it speaks volumes on how damn good that coaching staff is. And you got to give all the credit to the players and coaches alike. I did kind of touch on it yesterday. The whole thing between A.J. Brown going on X, talking about the way that Travis Kelce won in on Andy Reid. And I want to clear this up in case I didn't do the best job the other day. My take, short, plain, and simple. Shout out Sylvia Sneed of NFC Beast. She brought this up on her page, and I wanted to contribute my thoughts on this matter. Personally, anyone who watched the end of the Philadelphia Eagles season, or anybody who kind of watched the end of his career in the Tennessee region with the Titans, you don't have to be a genius to know that A.J. Brown has been a selfish player. I recall the Dallas game, seeing him throw his helmet in a bit of a teenage tirade, his helmet flying in the direction of wide receivers coach Aaron Moorhead, a former player and a former Super Bowl champion, something that A.J. Brown is not. While I don't necessarily condone disrespecting your coach, I also don't necessarily think that unless if you're privy to the every aspect of what they were speaking on, that it always has to be deemed as disrespect. There is a competitive nature that goes into arguing amongst each other and shooting ideas at one another in the heat of battle. And in this regard, I think Travis Kelce is a leader that essentially wanted Andy Reid to understand that they have a better chance of winning when or making plays when he's on the field. Not to mention that the 49ers were kind of sniffing out run plays whenever 87 was not on the field. Now, let's just say hypothetically, if Kelce put up the stat line that George Kittle did for the other guys, then I could understand a little more backlash about what he did. But Kelce balled out in the second half after being contained in half one. And I think great leaders and great players put the pressure on themselves to get in there and make plays. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing really to see here. Now, of course, we're going to go miles and lengths to try to get underneath all of it. But like, oh, is this how he acts with Taylor and all this other stuff? Man, he's a pro football player. These guys always have to have a certain edge to get out there and do it. So I cannot entertain that on the level that some people are. A lot of these people, when they come in and talk some of this smack, it makes me wonder if they ever played an organized sport. As the Chiefs go, Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, statistically, barring a mass injury that would, rupture his career, so to speak, I have every reason to believe that he is going to crush Tom Brady on most metrics of the passing game and everything that statistically comes with being a quarterback. Winning percentages are incredibly close. This is only Mahomes' 8th season next year. Now, mind you, he sat out year 1. So essentially next year would be his 7th season as a starter. In his first 6 years as a starter, he has won half the time. He has 3 Lombardis already and taking home the Super Bowl MVP trophy all 3 times. This is a young Chiefs team. When you look at this roster, a guy like a Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, who is definitely coming into his prime years. I know going into this game, some people thought maybe Travis Kelce was going to hang it up. I personally don't believe that's the case. I think he will be back. And I think the big thing that they got to address this offseason, in addition to enhancing that receiver room, give Rice and Kelce some help, also rid themselves of the cancer known as Kadarius Toney, which they are well on their way to doing. You got to make sure that you have enough money to bring back Chris Jones. If you could bring back Chris Jones, enhance a couple of things on this team, like make sure that O-line stays tight and add a good receiver to an already talented receiver room, then yes, the Kansas City Chiefs may very well be the first team to three-peat in the Super Bowl era. Now, I want to make a mention that the Green Bay Packers did that pre-merger, but in the actual Super Bowl era, this would be the first time that it is to happen. San Francisco 49ers were close to having the chance to do it back in 1990, prior to Leonard Marshall wiping out Joe Montana. A few plays later, a Roger Craig fumble was recovered by Lawrence Taylor. Matt Barr field goal, that didn't happen. In the words of the famous Pat Summerall, there will be no three-peat. That was an iconic game. There were a couple of other instances where this had an opportunity of happening. During the Patriot dynasty, the Patriots went into a couple of times where they had a chance to three-peat, but came up short in the 3rd season. Dallas Cowboys of the 90s had an opportunity to three-peat, but in 94 were defeated by William Floyd, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Deion Sanders, that very good 49er team. As you just alluded to, the monkey on the back 49er team, famously stated by that year's Super Bowl MVP, Steve Young. But yeah, going into next year, after seeing what they accomplished, I think we would all have to be a little crazy to not naturally give the Chiefs every conceivable opportunity as being the favorites of the NFL. A way too early assessment going into next year, I had posted this on my IG. I think from a ceiling standpoint, a talent standpoint, and just running a good franchise standpoint, my top 5 teams going into next year, number 1 naturally would be the Chiefs. Number 2 are the runner-ups, the 49ers. Number 3 is a team that in most people's estimations, even though they lost, still the best team possibly in the league, the Baltimore Ravens. Rounding out my top 5 going into next year, this might come as a little bit of a surprise. But at 4, I actually have the Green Bay Packers, because I have a feeling that Jordan Love's ascension is going to continue to really be something to watch. 5 might be a little controversial because of their sputtering playoff dreams coming up short, mainly to the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs more time than not. But Josh Allen is incredible. They fixed the defense. I still think they could do something special. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. Those are my top 5. Honorable mentions, teams that are like super close to jumping in that. DeMeco Ryans' boys, the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud was sensational this year. They are on the outside looking in. McVay's Rams definitely did a great job. You got to mention the Dallas Cowboys because of their talent. Getting wiped out in round 1, certainly not something that most people saw coming, so you always have to mention that team as well. And the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions got to fix their defense, but they definitely are close to being at the table as an elite team in this league. And I'm going to make a far-out prediction going into next year. Similar to what the NFC East was able to do a couple of seasons ago, I got the NFC North sending 3 teams to the playoffs next year. Way too early prediction. No draft, no training camp, no injuries yet. Green Bay wins the North next year. Detroit shows up as a very strong wild card. And I got Chicago being the final team in next year's playoffs. So I got the NFC North sending 3. I have a lot of reasons to believe this. Some of it's based on the difficulty of schedule. Now, granted, there's going to be a lot of roster shakeup between free agency and the draft. Just kind of going with my way too early intuition. And more times than not, my way too early actually show up to at least be 70% right. NFC North division to watch. Yeah, Mike Zappy, how you doing, brother? Good morning. By the way, Zapp, since you're here, I do want to invite you. John Nast of the Basement Show would like us to show up on his show tonight. He's going live at 9 p.m. Going to try to do a simulcast to put it on our side as well as his. So hit me in my inbox or even right here and let me know if you're down tonight. We're going to get Idris in there as well. Can't stay, but I dropped you a like and share on my page. Yeah, thank you for that, brother. Always appreciate the support. Mike Zappy, say no more. All right, brother. Zapp, if possible, try to show up to the studio about half hour early. I know that John wanted to make sure that our sound is correct and that we're able to put it on both our handles, no issues. And I already spoke to Idris. And yeah, we'll do that, man. We'll bring our guys and join Mr. Nash's show. All right, Zapp. Awesome. And I will see you tonight. Awesome, fellas. Very good. Zapp, if you're hanging, feel free to chime in. And yeah, so basically moving into next year, that's where I have it. There is one particular rule that might be getting changed that I am not a fan of, and I hope it doesn't come to fruition. But I do not like the idea of a fumble that goes out of the end zone going back to the team that fumbled it. Why are we rewarding guys for fumbling the ball? That's not okay. I don't like that rule. I hope the NFL doesn't do it because there's already been a lot of points of contention with me with the rules, handicapping defenses. You do that to defense, it's really unfair. But as Mahomes goes, final thought on this, I don't necessarily think he needs to win 6 or 7 to surpass Brady. If this man wins 4 or 5, given his statistical values, and I think people have to remember, Brady got 3 early, went almost a decade without doing it again, and then finalized his career, winning another 3 in New England and a final one with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mahomes has all kinds of time. And with sports medicine and the way the guys last and the way that the league has taken the big initiative, even more so than in Brady's era, because you got to remember, Brady played in parts of 3 different decades. Barring injury, Mahomes should be able to crush all of that and possibly win. And who knows how long Andy Reid's going to hang out. Is he going to be like another Bill Belichick or a Shula? We shall find out. But yeah, in the end, once again, way too early prediction. I got Mahomes winning 5. We'll see what happens. Going to hit on my ice-cold New York Knicks and why I'm not freaking out. By the way, terrible call yesterday in that game, losing to a team they shouldn't have got beaten by, the Houston Rockets. But those final minutes and a very controversial call going against Jalen Brunson. But to get to the root problem of why the Knicks are struggling right now, it's roster depth due to injury, not roster depth due to what they've done. I love the additions lately. You know, that trade with Detroit is going to prove to be very vital to a late postseason push, but they got to get all the bodies together. You know, Julius Randle still recovering with the bad shoulder. Brunson, although he's playing, is playing dinged up. We need to get OG back as well. The center situation has been an issue with Mitch Robinson out for the year. Hartenstein has been nursing that sore Achilles. But I do think that the Knicks did a very good move for the roster and the future, and I think they're going to be all right. And, you know, when Philadelphia loses Embiid, now, you know, the point is that certain teams are dinged up. The Knicks are going to be just fine. They just got to weather the storm right now. That's why you appreciate winning 9 in a row before losing 3 of your next 4. Got a comment flying in. If you pass that rule, then get rid of the gloves. If these players cannot maintain control of the ball with these gloves, and that's on them. Yes, Dallas experienced that in the playoffs with them. Yeah, dude, I'm with you on that. I completely agree. Yes, and the play you're referring to in that Detroit game actually hurt me in our fantasy finals. I still would have got beat because Lamar was just sensational. But yes, nobody likes to see that happen, but to give it back to the offense is egregious. I'm with you, Zach. Major League Baseball on the horizon. We're going to be doing more detailed flow of our assessments of all these teams, but I'm just going to give you a short view of what I see coming down the pike. Although the Los Angeles Dodgers spent ridiculous money on two phenomenal players from the Far East, Mr. Yamamoto as well as Mr. Ohtani, coming to play with the likes of a Max Muncy, a Freddie Freeman, a Mookie Betts, and a pretty good pitching staff as well. I'm not anointing the Dodgers as the for sure favorites to win the National League because based on the last couple of years, I still believe that from a talent-based standpoint, the Atlanta Braves are the best team in all of Major League Baseball from a talent-based standpoint. But they've got to figure out the puzzle that is the Philadelphia Phillies because they've had a lot of trouble defeating those guys last 2 years in the playoffs. Philadelphia Phillies, I don't necessarily think they're championship ready, although they did get close last year. I think last year was a little bit of an anomaly. They got hot. Arizona Diamondbacks are going to also be very good. I like their youth, but I don't think they have the depth. And they're also a candidate to kind of maybe finish exactly how they did last year and not make the playoffs because they did have the fortune of getting in, only being a couple of games over 500. I mean, dude, the Yanks missed the playoffs last year and they almost had the same record as the Diamondbacks. That kind of speaks to the volume of the mediocrity in some of that wild card sitch in the National League last year, whereas the American League East was very powerful. Speaking of the AL East, Mike Zappi made a good point to me off air not too long ago that he believes the Tampa Bay Rays may take a step backwards, particularly because of the loss of the very talented Wander Franco, who's dealing with his fair share of legal issues. That remains to be seen because Kevin Cash has always been able to stay above the water whenever getting challenges to his roster, or just the fact that they don't have the financial means that a lot of other teams do. But I'm going to say this. It's a valid point that Zappi made, and we'll see if it comes to fruition. The Boston Red Sox, while I think they will score some runs, I still don't think they have the amount of pitching to do it. Back to the Braves, one other thing I want to mention. The addition of Chris Sale, taking the pressure off him towards the back end of that rotation, I think he is a prime candidate to have a bounce-back year. New York Mets are kind of a mess. Don't have a lot of faith in them. In the Central, is there anybody that really stands out to me in the National League that I really like? Not exactly. I think the Pirates have talent, but they're not quite there yet. The Brewers just never spend money. I'm not really considering them. And I think the Cardinals are too old. So I do think the NL Central could potentially be the worst division in all of baseball. If there's any bright spot in that division, it is the Cincinnati Reds. Back to the AL. In the West, you got two powerhouse teams. The defending world champion Texas Rangers, as well as perennial championship contenders, the Houston Astros. Both of those teams are going to be in the mix, along with my New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. Going into this year, I think those are going to be the four best teams in the American League. Last year, the American League Central was kind of but I have faith in the Cleveland Guardians doing a lot better and getting back to where people are used to seeing them. I know a lot of people are going to be hot on the Twins. I said this last year. I'm going to say it again. My prediction is that Don Mattingly takes over for the Toronto Blue Jays if they have a lackluster first half. He's there for a reason. He's a former manager of the year in the National League side. I believe that he will take over, and he might take over in the situation where you get your first skipper fired. Is there anybody that's going to come out of nowhere and kind of surprise? I don't know if at this point it's that much of a surprise, but I think the Miami Marlins have a lot of talent, and they might be able to surprise some folks. And possibly the San Francisco Giants. Dusty Baker is upstairs now, going back to a team that he managed to a National League pennant some years ago, back when they had Barry Bonds. The Angels still breathing mediocrity. I would like to see Mike Trout get moved and go to a team that he finally has an opportunity to win a championship. And, the Dodgers, you got to mention them. But I do believe that Zappi wants an invite, so Zappi's going to get an invite. The Los Angeles Dodgers with David Roberts, he hasn't been able to quite complete as much as I think he should, given how much talent that he oversees. And it's not an easy job, similar to being a manager of the New York Yankees, because you're constantly under a microscope. Zappy, your invite is in Messenger. Give it a look. Want to get on this baseball talk? All right, bro. Two's always better than one. I'm with it. But yeah, I'm going to hit on this Joey Bosa situation, and then I'm going to bring it back to baseball when Zap joins me. Joey Bosa is on the trade block, and with good reason. You have a new regime coming in. You know, you got Jim Harbaugh, fresh off winning the national title with the Michigan Wolverines. This is also a coach who helped the San Francisco 49ers under the steady hand at that time of Colin Kaepernick, who replaced Alex Smith, get to a Super Bowl, damn near beat his brother in that Super Bowl, his brother John. That was one of the more classic Super Bowls. I think it's a good move to move on from Bosa, not because he's not going to be a hell of a player somewhere else if the kid could stay healthy. I just think that when you're trying to bring in new talent and put your stir in the drink, so to speak, on a new franchise, I think that you got to do it your way. And sometimes parting with players that are talented, but that necessarily don't have a lot left in the tank. Not in his case. More so Khalil Mack. I could see him as a guy that they move on from as well. But to focus in just on Bosa, I think it would be kind of cool to see if we could get Bosa with his brother in San Francisco, because I think it's safe to say that the Chase Young experiment was a mixed bag and more so on the negative end. You got Dre Greenlaw that's going to be healing from an Achilles injury. Fred Warner, arguably the best middleman at linebacker in the NFL. This is a very talented 49er team, and we spoke on it on a previous show. We're going to speak on it tonight with John Nast, but the bottom line is that adding a Joey Bosa, possibly to team up with his brother, even if it's a rotational kind of deal, I don't necessarily see how it could be a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's a shoo-in that that's where he goes. I mean, dude, there are some other teams in both the NFC and AFC that could use a player of this guy's talent, and you hope that he could stay healthy. Another candidate just coming out of the blue that I could see making a splash like this because they're in win now mode, or at least pretend they could win now. That's the New York Jets. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets approach these Chargers with some kind of package. But I have a feeling Joey ends up in the NFC. And I do think the 49ers at minimum have a 50-50 shot of landing him. I mean, who wouldn't want to play with their brother? And you also have the Steph Diggs, Trayvon Diggs connection, where I could potentially see Steph ending up with the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to the show, Zabby.
The interesting thing about what you say with Joey Bosa going to the Niners, keep in mind that who is now the Chargers head coach and who he used to coach in the NFL. So would he have some sort of sentiment and value in there where he would actually trade Joey Bosa to the Niners, you know?
Honestly, I think it's two hands on it. If he's on good standing with the organization, I think people try to do right by a player as long as it's not directly screwing you. And in this case, while they do play in the same state, not in the same conference. And you also look for a team that is close to winning a championship, because that's where you might be able to get premium draft capital, because the 49ers want to win right now. They ain't worried about draft capital because they're constantly drafting high because they're always a very good team. Back to the MLB.
Also remember, this is their first year in a few years that they have a first-round pick since Trey Lance. So that's another thing to keep in mind for this team, where if they feel they're a player away, which quite frankly, I mean, the 49ers were the best team in football. Let's say it how it is. They were the best team in football, but they lost to a better coach team. What exactly do the Niners need? I mean, is there someone at pick 31 that's going to help this team out right now? No. So
not necessarily.
You know they're going to go out there and try to trade that first-round pick for possibly a right tackle or someone to come in there and save that offensive line, because if they would have brought back a Mike McGlinchey, for example, I mean, Purdy is connecting those balls.
I tend to agree on that. I get that part.
So yeah, so no, it's crazy that just talking about it.
No, I'm with you on that. I do tend to agree. It's just one of those things where I feel that there's always that potential, because similar to how guys reunite if they played in college. We're seeing that more of a trend that even if you're a family member, I mean, dude, you look at Jason Kelsey, if he continues to play. I'm not saying that he would leave the Eagles, but it's something to think about if he had an opportunity to play with his brother. I'm not saying that it's like out of the realm of possibility, but
and I'm not going to sound like your stereotypical Dallas Cowboy fan, as you know I normally don't, but if Jerry Jones really is serious about having a very aggressive offseason,
yeah, oh yeah,
then a guy like Joey Bosa makes a lot of sense, because now it allows Micah Parsons to go back at the Mike linebacker 65 to 75% of the time, where they only have him rushing 25% max, because quite frankly, whenever he's playing that middle linebacker, the way he read and reacts to the ball is something that cannot be coached. I mean, he is in between the hole that quick, but when he's outside on the edge, you take that ability away from him. So I think a Joey Bosa does make a lot of sense in Dallas, and not saying it's going to happen, but if you're going to make moves, this is one of those moves.
I see the reasoning there. You could keep talking on some of this MLB as we're going to revisit that, being that you weren't here when I hit it. And I'm going to simultaneously put some of this on. So we got MLB on the horizon. You take it wherever you want it to go.
So I was jumping in when you were starting to talk about the Rays, and the way I'm looking at that division, I'm looking at the Red Sox as a team that this year can sneak up. We saw what Baltimore did last year. I look at Baltimore this season as not only this season, but for the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to be a team that's going to be right there, because now
they're going to be better for it after getting their brains kicked in by the Rangers, because that was an experience that they did not have yet.
Well, not only that, they now have rich owners.
Indeed.
So with that, now we're going to see the Orioles be able to go out there and spend money. Then what do? They go out and trade for a guy like a Corbin Burns to come in there and help out a Grayson Rodriguez. I mean, and also the Baltimore Orioles have the #1 farm system this year. I mean, there's so many things that this year they're going to be right there. The Yankees, we know the deals they made.
I love the arbitration, historic arbitration, mind you, with making sure that you're going to have Soto for 2 years. I think that within 2 years, you're going to know if you want to go move even further with that. And I love the fact that he gets to play every day with an Aaron Judge, who, in addition to being a consummate professional and a very humble dude, he's also just a phenomenal baseball player offensively. So I think that's a great thing for Soto to get out of a toxic situation where you had too many selfish guys in San Diego.
Yes.
Plus, he brings one of his friends, because Trent Grisham comes along, and those two did get along well. And Trent Grisham, if you follow his trajectory, he's always been a literal ball player, a guy who just wants to do the right thing and just play baseball. And, the Yankees needed outfielders. I think Verdugo might only be a one-year experiment, because you also have to consider that Jason Dominguez, at the midway point, if not the 100-game mark, will be back in the Bronx. And he is a super talented individual. I mean, he starts his career off taking future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander long in Houston. So that's a hell of a way to start a career, when you're going against one of the game's greatest pitchers and you take him and go yard, and the ball just kind of exploded off the bat. And, your Texas Rangers, we'll continue to monitor how Jacob deGrom heals. But I really love the idea of Jacob deGrom potentially pitching the 8th or the 9th in a similar role to what John Smoltz did years ago for the Atlanta Braves. He was a Hall of Fame pitcher already as a starter, but now he can kind of redefine himself in these situations. And because he has the starter's mentality, he could go multiple innings. And this is a dude that has great stuff, that especially in the beginning of when he's coming into a ball game, he has stuff that is so difficult to even make contact with. So I think that it's a great thing for the Texas Rangers to bring in that kind of a weapon, and
then the other thing about them too, though, that what I'm going to be keeping an eye on as far as how the determination will be and have a better idea where deGrom will be playing is, do the Rangers, are they able to get Jordan Montgomery back? Because their TV deal situation is now settled, so they have the money. but Jordan Montgomery wants a little more than what they want to offer. So now you're going into the season right now with Nathan Eovaldi as your one. Dane Dunning would probably be your two if Jordan Montgomery's not there. Andrew Heaney, three. And then keep in mind, too, Max Scherzer is also coming back at around the All-Star break. So the Rangers need to make a move. And it's, obviously it's a starting pitcher. And you're looking at two guys, Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. And if Jordan Montgomery's wanting Blake Snell money, then it's to the point that it probably benefits you to go out and get a Blake Snell in there.
One or the other makes sense for both our organizations. I'm for one am an advocate for reuniting Jordan Montgomery with his original team. But I do have another guy that I do want to mention that I would not be the least bit upset if he joined the Bronx Bombers. And I'm going to put my three pitchers that are must-haves. Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, and Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer, while he's not going to be the guy that he was in Cleveland, he got railroaded. He deserves another opportunity in the bigs. And this is a guy that gets a lot of strikeouts in a short amount of time. He could give you 5 innings and get you 10 to 11 strikeouts and hand it over to the pen for the 6, 7, 8, 9. And, on a team like the Yankees that have the offense, on a team like the Rangers, or even if the Astros wanted to give him a look, this is a dude that back end of the rotation can definitely be a factor. Even you imagine adding him to Baltimore right now, he would be a hell of an addition.
Absolutely. And sitting down, I've been sitting here. I mean, I'm a part of a lot of Texas Rangers groups, and we talk about Trevor Bauer all the time and how much, why not take a flyer on the guy? But here's the thing. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think teams want that publicity. Yes, he was cleared, but the fact that there's still a settlement involved means something. So the media will focus on that.
Absolutely. Similar to how they tried to get Kobe, which was, it seemed like it affected him long after, even though no guilt was truly proven outside of infidelity, which is not a criminal act. And it's like, in Kobe's case, sadly, I feel that when he was still with us and playing at a great level in the NBA, I feel that it cost him many an MVP thing, because nothing against Steve Nash. He had a great career. But I don't think it was fair that Kobe only got one. It's remarkable, because I think most human beings that watch basketball could say that Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant are arguably the greatest duo to ever do it. I mean, of course, you're going to have some people that would say Pippen and Jordan. Some people would say Magic and Kareem, but they're definitely always in the conversation. So for each of those players to only get one MVP, and then even with the late Fred Hickman, may he rest in peace, him and Shaquille O'Neal had some beef because Shaquille wasn't a unanimous MVP by one vote from Hickman. So I can understand why that would, piss off the big Aristotle as well.
Yeah, no, without question about that. And, going back to what you were talking about with Soto and Judge and with the arbitration deal, the one thing, the big, great thing about it is we're talking about two of the better hitters in baseball. And if in these next 2 years it doesn't work, then it's not going to work. You're not going to pay the guy.
Absolutely.
I personally think it's going to work for you guys.
They had to do it for striking out on Bryce Harper, not making the move there.
They absolutely had to, and it was the right guy. I wish they should have done it back when he was initially traded from the Nationals to the Padres. But it is. And looking at the AL Central, I want to say that I think the Guardians are going to be there, but it's just with the Terry Francona stepping away, I just can't. It's a lot to put on Voit is the way I look at it. And the Texas Rangers will be there. Seattle's going to be back. Houston's going to be tough again. The team that I heard you talking about, the NL Central, and I actually believe that the Cardinals are going to be a much better team this year.
You think so?
Yeah. And when we go over the NL Central, I'll break it down even further. But just looking at what they have in their youth, and they have a lot of key pieces there that I like. And then because of the fact that you look at the Brewers, again, trading people away, Cubs, though they should be signing Cody Bellinger now. We look today, the Giants signed Jorge Soler to a 3-year, $42 million. So, all these players are going to be signing here in the next coming weeks as the Rays today have pitchers and catchers reporting. So it's time. And then looking at the East, of course, gotta say the Dodgers. We saw what they did this offseason, spending all that money, deferring a lot of that money. But hey, in baseball,
Shohei did it rather geniusly because there is no salary cap, but there is a luxury tax. And when you back it up to the end of that contract, there are so many years where the manipulation of that situation, and a very intelligent one on his part, can help the Dodgers continue to bring in talent. Now, listen, dude, I'm not ignorant, and I'm not going to say that the Dodgers aren't going to win some World Series along the way. I just don't think that coming right in, it's a shoe-in, because I still believe that from a chemistry-based standpoint, if they could just shake the Phillies and figure out how to beat them, the Atlanta Braves are still the most talented team in Major League Baseball. And that is a very unbiased take on my end.
Yeah, no, and again, to the caveat to that as well, or not even the caveat, but we look at teams like the Astros. They have been great since 2017. And
Indeed.
Homegrown. The Atlanta Braves started being great about 3-4 years ago, and same situation, homegrown. And that's even after letting guys like a Dansby Swanson go. Who was there? I forgot the other player that they let go. They have
Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman, thank you.
Well, he let himself go because he messed up with his agent.
Yes.
He regretted that decision, and now he's kind of normalizing LA, but at the beginning was very painful for him.
Absolutely. And but as I was saying, for the Dodgers, yes, you got Shohei out there. Obviously, we know Shohei's not pitching this year, but show me. It's the same thing. We've been seeing it. The D-backs, they're going to be an even better
What did you call me?
You heard me, because you can't see me.
So sneaky.
The D-backs, they're going to be a much better team, in my opinion. Another team, top 3 in the farm system, right there with Baltimore and Texas. So, they did it last year with a young team, and this team is 1 year older, and they have a great manager to lead the way for them. I'm excited. But yeah, as far as the East, like I said, those, and then the Mets. Sorry, Richard.
They don't have enough yet. I want to keep the baseball conversation flowing, but over the screen, I do want to put up my NHL midseason quick report. By all means, continue to speak. East contenders: Bruins, Rangers, Panthers, Lightning, and Hurricanes. Quick explanation for each. The Hurricanes have been so damn good at home over the years, so they are always going to be a tough out in the playoffs. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I shouldn't even have to explain why they're still a contender. Florida Panthers, coming off a Stanley Cup Finals loss last year, they did knock off the mighty Bruins. The Bruins, in my opinion, being that they're younger, are kind of surprising me. I don't think anybody expected them to have the most points in the East. The Rangers are hot on their ass, though. I think the Rangers have the best goaltender in the Eastern Conference. Out west, the Stars, Canucks, Golden Knights, and Avs. I got one less team in the West. While I do think that the premier teams in the West could play with anybody in the East, I just think there's one less great team in the West as opposed to 5 in the East. But I'll put it to you bluntly, dude. Every single one of the teams on this list right now are capable of hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup, because you got the Stars are so exciting to watch. They could wear you out, and they could also kill you with speed. The Golden Knights, amazing what they've been able to accomplish. Shout out Jeff Elder. His Colorado Avalanche, after winning a cup, entered the playoffs last year very banged up. And I'm not going to lie, dude, it's been since 94 since my New York Rangers have won the cup. We're in 2024, and I must admit, it would be kind of dope if we get the Vancouver Canucks again. 3 decades in the making. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be.
But it's too early. But right now, this is what I see in the NHL. And I'll be honest with you. I said this on previous shows. There is a curse linked to the President's Trophy, and I don't want the President's Trophy. I have high faith that my New York Rangers could play anywhere. When you have a great goaltender, and when you have the depth that this team has, and you even have the kid line, I do believe the New York Rangers very much so have a chance to win it. We flirted with it a couple of years, got our hearts ripped out a couple of seasons ago against the Lightning. And last year, an early exit at the hands of the hated New Jersey Devils, who, to not my surprise, not that good this year. There is one team in the East that I do want to mention, even though I don't like them. I think the New York Islanders are one of those teams that can get in and get hot. And me being a diehard Ranger fan, I would love to see the Islanders and the Rangers get it on. It's always exciting. I went to college across the street from Nassau Coliseum, so that would be exciting to see Long Island and Manhattan get it on. That would be really cool. But just wanted to share that with our viewers. And Zappy, I know that you're kind of busting at the seams of more baseball, so continue to fly on that.
Yeah. So, anyways, as I was saying, and I fully expect the Padres to take a step back even more. I mean, the Bob Melvin thing was a complete disaster. Should have fired him long earlier in the season.
I tend to agree.
They didn't do that, and then you say goodbye to Blake Snell. I mean, Josh Hader. I mean, they've lost too many players. Giants, I think, are gonna be there again. Soler is not exactly an arson judge, but
Arson Judge, I love that.
He's he's a valuable player. That's a big loss for the Marlins, but I still think that with the Marlins, their youth, they'll be okay.
But do you know how cool it is? Sorry to interrupt you. The Arson Judge thing. Last year, the Yankees had opening day against the Giants. I see a dude coming at Joe's Pizza rocking an Arson Judge jersey, San Francisco jersey, a Giants fan who had a great sense of humor, taking pictures with the locals in the Bronx, a lot of Yankee fans, and they were all like on his back with the Arson Judge. And there is a rumor that the real Arson Judge, Aaron, actually signed it to be a good sport. That's pretty damn cool.
That is pretty cool, actually. But yeah, so that's what I expect. And then, like I said, Mets, Phillies are going to be there. I think they're going to be strong. I think they're going to be maybe even stronger than the Braves, but we'll see. And, I'm going to go over to NBA. You're talking about the Knicks. What is it, a 3-game losing streak right now?
3 of our last 4. Three of our last 4.
So, I don't think it's by any means sound the alarm. You're the 4 seed now. It's the NBA. It's the sport of streaks.
It's frustrating.
It is absolutely
because
frustrating.
when you smack around quality teams like the Denver Nuggets, they've had Philly's number this year. You play well against the better teams in the league. When you catch an L to the Houston Rockets, who are upstart, but I'm like, or the Los Angeles Lakers, who we all know are best case scenario a play-in team, and probably not even going to do that. It's frustrating, but at the same time, it goes with timing. I mentioned the injuries at the top of the hour, and right now, you just got to weather it, man.
Yeah, you have to weather it, but it really begs the question whether is Julius Randle actually that important to the offense to be there. So, I mean, I know you how much you and Idris have specified trading him away, how you don't like him, how much he takes over in fourth quarters of games, but I think this is going to be a good moot point to learn how. Let's find out where exactly.
What I like about this. I believe that with the addition of OG, and now granted he's coming off of the sore elbow, the recent trade, getting 2 quality players, one of them a 20-point scorer from the Detroit Pistons. And personally, I think this roster is ready to win a championship. But to answer your question about Julius Randle, what I like about it, by having that second team, so to speak, that some of these dudes should, could, and can start, then you got sharpshooter like a DiVincenzo. I think that it gives Julius Randle the ability to do what he enjoys doing, which is score. And, he's going to quietly get you 10 rebounds. But the thing is, I think it takes pressure off of Randle, where I actually think as a complementary piece, he actually fits in better than he did in previous years, whether you take it back to 2020 when Derrick Rose was playing at an all-star level and Julius Randle, in my opinion, was getting the ball too much. And he came up very small in that Atlanta series. Or, you had that one year where you missed the playoffs. Then last year, the emergence of Jalen Brunson, once again, Julius Randle coming up small. And the Knicks were also able to identify why they had to get rid of R.J. Barrett, which I'm glad they did. So ultimately, when you make a trade of that proportion, and when you got guys like Kendrick Perkins saying that this roster is deeper than the Atlantic Ocean, that's all well and good. But you got to play together to prove that it was a good trade. In time, I
Absolutely.
think the Knicks will be able to prove that it was a good trade.
And
The plus metrics with OG in the lineup is undeniable.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I know you're talking about the Knicks in the East, and I'm going to flip it over to the West. And this is post trade deadline talk. And I'm looking at one specific team that I'm like, uh-oh.
Yep.
And that's the Golden State Warriors. There was all this talk that the Warriors need to trade Klay Thompson, the Warriors need to trade Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors need to trade Draymond Green, the Warriors need to trade Jonathan Kuminga, get someone else in there to help Steph Curry.
You don't want to make it a rebuild, you want to make it a reload.
And management stood there and said, you know what? We're not going to do anything, guys. We've done this. And the chemistry on the court right now with the Warriors just looks different. Especially ever since the trade deadline, it looks different. Like this team had that team talk that the coaches are not a part or something like that, So they're definitely a team I'm watching out for.
I also think that sometimes when you always have dissension, but winning is like, look at the Bulls. This is a good analogy. When you had the Bulls of the 90s, you had certain guys on that team that didn't like certain guys on that team. But because they were winning, a lot of the stuff gets swept. But when you're losing, and then it also opens up another thing about possible lack of interest, because when you hit the pinnacle so many times, and then you're going through rough patches, and that now some of the things about certain guys not liking each other comes out a little more, and it shows on the court that they don't really have that family aspect. Because you remember a couple of years ago, the fight with Draymond. That was kind of showing America that, there are some internal issues with this team, but because you got the Splash Brothers and because Draymond brings what he brings and you have an excellent coach and excellent bench, a lot of this shit gets masked.
Mm-hmm. And we could even fast forward to Sunday night and listening to these Kansas City Chiefs during the interview, the questions about, a lot of people downplayed you guys. A lot of people said this, you guys were done, this and that. And all the Chiefs players sat there and said, this season was hard. This season was very hard. And
absolutely
to be humbled like that. And that's what I look at the Warriors as, having that same mentality. They are getting doubted hardcore. And I'm like, maybe all the veterans have come together and like, hey, we're going to have to overcome some serious adversity because we're not this or that. Not saying they're going to go out there and beat the Nuggets and stuff, but they're just the team to watch right now is the way I'm putting it.
It's important to finish strong and to at least be an appealing place for other free agents to want to go. Because let's say hypothetically, if Golden State gets in barely, knocks out a top-seeded team, and maybe they do meet their maker in round 2, it would still be a good advertisement going into the next season to be like, yo, this is still a premier destination for ball players to want to come. And I think a lot of times that's the bigger point because like in my team's case, it's never been a question of talent. I think Leon Rose doing a good job with this roster. But the James Dolan situation is going to continue to evolve, but it's no secret that a person like a James Dolan has been adversary to helping his franchise score the likes of the next tier guys, like the LeBron Jameses, like the Dwayne Wades over the years. Those kind of ball players where you settle for the likes of an Amari Stoudemire, who I love as a human being, but at the end of the day, he had bad knees. We didn't do the Carfax, so to speak, on the knees. They made a mistake trading half the roster for Carmelo Anthony when they probably could have just signed him in free agency. I think what intimidated the Knicks was the sheer fact that they did not want to lose him to the hip Barclays Center. And then you had the Russian billionaire along with a very influential dude like a Jay-Z. And even if you back it up to when they got Jason Kidd is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. He will always be on my top 10 list. But they caught him at a weird time in his life. Jay Kidd was a Knick for about 4 hours, and he gets a DUI. Now, granted, the Knicks, were it not for the Melo injury, I believe would have played the Miami Heat in the Eastern Finals that year. But they tried to snag some of the heroes from the Dallas championship when they beat Miami and try to run it with some of the Knicks talent. Now, granted, they had a hell of a year, and that was the last time they were relevant prior to recently. with Tom Thibodeau and with Leon Rose doing good things with this roster. But I guess what I'm getting at is everybody calls it the Mecca for a reason. Everybody wants to play in that arena. But sadly, up until recently, I don't think people want to come here. Now I think people want to come here. But for too long, James Dolan. I mean, dude, when you're Patrick friggin' Ewing and security doesn't know who the hell you are and you got your banner, that's so embarrassing. You know how they made a statue for Kobe, and rightfully so, and Magic and Michael in Chicago? Ewing, you could make an argument, is good enough to build a statue for. And I guess what I'm saying is, or even the way that Charles Oakley got mistreated, that was disgusting. So, the life of a Knicks fan, it's always something.
Right. It's been something.
I mean, I remember the late, great Kobe Bryant at the ESPY Awards. Chris Rock was going in on his beloved New York Knicks, and Kobe, being the guy that he was, didn't want to totally laugh at the Knicks, but bro, Kobe was like belly laughing, and I'm like, God damn it. But he's right, though. It was a pathetic time in our organization's history.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, too, talking about the West, how you're saying the Warriors. I think the Warriors or Golden State has, in fact, become that premier destination, especially when they moved from Oakland.
Exactly, because Oakland ain't nothing about no premier, because everybody keeps running away from Oakland. The Raiders, the Athletics.
Everyone. I mean, Oakland has lost every sports team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at a team like the Clippers, who have overtaken the Lakers almost, it seems like the chemistry has finally come together for that team. And are they the biggest challenge to the Nuggets in the playoffs? I mean, or is it the T-Wolves, the team that has finally arrived?
Because it really is about matchups.
It is.
Because the thing that's strange, right? Do I think the Lakers are a good enough team to be good for 82 games? No. But if they have that knack to just kind of sneak in, LeBron James can turn it on for a short period of time, which still makes him a great player. Is he the guy that's going to take over in the manner that he did in Cleveland when they're down 3-1, or when he was doing it in two different stints with Cleveland or with Miami? The answer is no. But on given nights, he can still bring it. And then you mix in the Austin Reeves, Hachimura, guys like that, they have a chance to knock off a Denver in a series. But is it sustainable? Can they win the whole thing? I don't think so. I honestly believe that the Denver Nuggets should still find themselves back in the finals. But I have a strong belief that it's the Celtics' year.
Yeah, the Celtics, the chemistry with that team it's second to none.
I want to be wrong, because it would really suck if the Celtics beat the Knicks in the ECF and take it over to the ice if the Bruins knock out the Rangers. I mean, the grand hope is a sweep, but you'll live with a split.
And the bigger issue, though, is if you look at the rest of the NBA, who is that one team that's going to be able to go into Boston and steal the series? Because at home, they are unstoppable this year.
The only two that come to my mind, the only two in the East that come to my mind that have the potential to do it is the Milwaukee Bucks because of talent and the New York Knicks because of familiarity.
Yeah, and I look at a team like, can Embiid finally get over it? Can he finally take that team in?
I don't think they have enough. I really don't. I just don't think they have enough. I thought they had more last year, but they had too many choke artists on that team. And the worry with Milwaukee is the Doc Rivers factor. There is one team in the East that's going to be on the lower end of the playoff spectrum, but they are young, talented, and hungry and motivated, and a team that could definitely ruin somebody's day in the postseason. I'm talking about the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, Paolo Banchero has really come into his own, become a real superstar in the NBA. I can't wait to watch him this weekend, actually. It's going to be fun to watch the All-Star game.
The Magic, Brett and I go to our fair share of games, and he's been forecasting that they are not far, and this is the year that it looks like it's finally coming to fruition. I mean, they actually have an undefeated record against my Knicks, but very exciting team. And although I definitely don't think the Miami Heat are going to do the magic that they did last year, I still believe that Spo is such a good coach that you could never completely count them out. Anything you want to hit on the way out We're coming up on the 5-minute mark.
No, man, no. I just wanted to come on, talk with you. I was, sitting around. I was like, you know what? Rather than sending messages, I'm just gonna go ahead and see if he wants me to jump in there with him.
No, sounds good. It was a good show. And the cool thing about you hopping in is that it gave us more content and more topics to talk about to actually hit close to an hour-long show. Look for us tonight. We're going to be joining the Basement Show with Mr. Nast. And Mr. Nast was explaining to me how you could actually do via StreamYard the simulcast, where it's like a show for the Richie Hicks Jr. pod, as well as his brand. I don't know a damn thing about technology, but my brother Idris is going to get on that and he'll explain it to me as he said he would, because I'm good at talking this sports stuff, but I'm very basic when it comes to the technological aspect.
See, I'm the numbers guy, I'm that guy. Computers and I don't get along, but give me some numbers, I'll remember it and calculate it for you real quick.
Yeah, I'm thankful that Idris knows his way around a lot of this, or even like before him, when I was a member of the Jordan Patrick show, Elliot used to do a lot of the production, things of that nature. So in my opinion, he had the hardest job of us. It's easier when you just get to talk a lot and, be funny and whatever else, but good show as usual, Zappy. We will be back tonight, 9 p.m. Look for us. I will be dropping some promotions for that show as the day moves along, and making a point, like and subscribe to the channel. Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I'm going to get out in the world and run a couple of errands, get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day outside. But Zap, thanks for hanging, brother. And I will talk to you tonight. Try to make it by 8:30 if possible. Look for us tonight, guys. Announcements to come. Have a great day. And don't forget, Major League Baseball previews are right around the corner. We'll be putting out promotion for that, as well as we're going to go hard on each and every division and really analyze everything that's going on. And the second half of hockey and basketball's coming around. And I also want to talk to Zappy off air in the near future about promoting some boxing shows, because Idris, being the former boxer of the family, I would love to even do a potential show where we talk about dream matches from different gens. I think that'll be a great thing to speak on as well. For my man, Mr. Mike Zappy, I am your host, Richie. Thank you for watching. We'll be back later.
Have a good one.